Dak Prescott, who threw for just 170 yards Sunday in a loss to the Panthers, not the way the Cowboys wanted to start the season, especially with those Giants coming up on Sunday. Dak will shoulder the load again to help his team avoid going 0-2. But Jerry Jones is still super high on his quarterback, saying Dak is somewhere between, ready guys, Jared Goff and Cam Newton. Nick, I'll start with you. What do you make of Jerry Jones' assessment?
Somewhere between Jared Goff and Cam Newton, eh? Geographically, that's accurate. Goff plays out west, Cam out east, Dak's right in the middle.
Sure.
I mean, almost complexion-wise, that's, I'd say, somewhat accurate as far as if we're going.
Yeah.
As far as stylistically, though, yeah. I can't give him that. How is Dak as a rusher? Because when he says Cam, that's what he's talking about. Cam as a runner of the football.
And Goff as a pocket.
And Goff as a passer. So Dak's never had a game with more than 45 yards rushing in his career.
Never?
Never. Cam had 59 in the first quarter.
In his career? Oh, first quarter.
In the first quarter yesterday.
Yeah,
all right, as far as Dak as a passer, he's been under 200 yards in 7 of his last 9 games played. Goff's been over 200 yards in 7 of his last 9 games played, and only under 200 3 times in the last 2 years. Listen, I understand what Jerry Jones is trying to do here, which is take 2 guys, one guy that runs and is big, and one guy that he saw play the night before in Jared Goff,
right,
and say, this is what it reminds me of. To me, it was a funny comparison because, this past week, when you were traveling on your way to do the game, I did a hit on a local television station in Dallas. And the anchor there said, leading into the game, asked me, Dak Prescott, is he kind of like a young Cam Newton? And I tried to be respectful because the guy's a local news guy.
Yes.
Doesn't cover sports every day. But I had mentioned to our staff afterwards, I was like, man, this guy is asking me, is he Cam Newton? Like, that they have nothing in common.
He's been listening to Jerry.
Right. Or Jerry's been listening to him. I mean, Cam is Cam's the greatest rushing quarterback we've ever seen. Now, he has limitations elsewhere, but as far as the ability to effectively run the football as a quarterback, Cam's the best we've seen.
And the other 2 quarterbacks we compared him to, one, a good friend of mine, Randall Cunningham, who I played in Philly with, and then later when he became a pocket passer there in Minnesota, and a friend of the show, Michael Vick. Yep. All right? Those 3 guys, in the history of this league, or let's just the last 25 years, those guys are the most effective runners with the football.
And this is the reason I really push back on the Cam comparison is we would never, it's not racist, but it's racial. There's nothing about Dak's game reminds you of Cam, except he's a big black quarterback. But he's not nearly as big as Cam, and he's not athletic as Cam. And so we can keep talking about different things Dak reminds us of. The reality is Dak over the last year plus has reminded us of a mid-round backup quarterback who was thrust into a starting job who right now doesn't look ready.
Give me a name who who does Dak remind you of right now?
Right now, a guy who's a borderline NFL starter. I'll try to pull one from memory, but is there a guy that Dak's style reminds you of?
I can't say right now. Dak is still in the developmental stage. The only reason why we're doing this comparison is because their owner, general manager, Jerry Jones, is saying that. But the truth of the matter is there's no one. And I know Cam is one of Nick's favorite players. I like Cam as a player. But I won't let anyone try to compare himself to Cam Newton as a runner or as a physical specimen. Like, absolute. At the combine, Andrew Luck's numbers, vertical leap, running 40-yard dash, broad jump, all those things were almost exactly like Cam. Those are the only things exactly the same. When they get on the field, Andrew Luck is not. And we have seen the last couple years how many times he gets hit and how he responds to getting hit the way Cam Newton is. So I'm not going to let people compare themselves to what I think is the most gifted physical quarterback in Cam Newton. The truth of the matter is Cam Newton would love to be Jared Goff and Cam Newton. I mean, you talking about Dak? Dak could be, he's Goff. Oh, yeah, the best of the young and one of these other stallion quarterbacks we have. No, Cam would love to be able to pick and stick a guy like Goff does. He would love to be able to do the play-action pass. And just like Jared Goff would love to have the body of Cam Newton. Don't put this type of pressure on your quarterback. And now, this is the question I ask myself. has Jerry convinced himself of this? Because he's getting ready to have to write a big check. Because if your quarterback is that next season, because Dak was not a first rounder, they're going to have to sign him to a ginormous contract next year. And if they decide to do that, I believe the Dallas Cowboys and their arc and trajectory into the next few years, it's going to be, to me, Dak right now is fighting to see if he's going to be the franchise quarterback in Dallas.
Exactly.
If he does not have a good year, I believe Jerry Jones is going to regret what he said yesterday.
Well, look, the bottom line is Jerry Jones fully supports Dak Prescott, wants to support Dak Prescott, wants Dak Prescott to be the guy that he's describing and the guy that he has supported. But then he also went on to say yesterday, talking about his receivers, they did get separation. We just didn't get the ball to them. So you have to wonder how much of it is on his young quarterback and how much of it is on the receivers that he either has or really doesn't have on that offense.
Jenna, that is a great observation. I jotted those same quotes down because we did that. I knew that wasn't the quote we were leading with. That, to me, was the more relevant quote because you can't have a situation where, see, you talked about before the game, Jerry went through each and every lineman, didn't he?
Yes.
And evaluated their play, said they played well, said the guard did this, the center did that, spoke well of them. Says Dak can be this. Says the wide receivers, quote, did not play bad, and as you said, they got separation, we didn't get the ball to them. Well, then how the hell you score 8 points? Unless your quarterback was an enormous limiting factor. I know Zeke only had 15 carries, but he gave you 70 yards and a touchdown. Like, your quarterback was the limiting factor, along with what I would say, I think he misevaluated the line play. I think the offensive line got eaten alive by Carolina's front. But this is... we said it going into the year. Because he doesn't have that fifth-year option, this is an enormous year for Dak Prescott and an enormous year for the Cowboys as far as what the future of that position will be.
I know what would have happened, but